Hi, welcome to this channel. I'm Roberto Cabras, and from this moment on, I will take you into the world of nature from a completely new perspective. Thanks to the use of special cameras placed on the bodies of animals, we'll be able to observe the environment directly from their point of view, experiencing it in an immersive, up-close way like never before. We will explore together the world of four-legged animals, aquatic creatures, birds, and even insects, stepping into their paths, their movements, and the places they travel through every single day. Right here on AI Wildcam.
Welcome to AI Wildcam. Discover the wonders of the world through the eyes of animals. Thanks to cameras with front and rear views, we will take you on a unique journey through paths and places no human could reach. Experience nature as you've never seen it before.
To obtain these images, we imagined attaching a small camera directly to the mountain goat's head, securing it with a light, stable, close-fitting system positioned behind the horns so it would not interfere with its natural movements. This choice allows us to observe the landscape from a point of view that would be almost impossible to reach with a normal ground-level shot or a traditional camera. We are no longer watching the animal from the outside as simple observers. We are entering its trajectory, following the way it confronts empty space, rock, steep slopes, and unstable terrain. In this way, the camera records every subtle movement of the head and transforms the goat's motion into a truly immersive experience. Every sway, every correction of balance, every quick lowering of the head or shift in direction is felt directly. The mountain stops being just a backdrop and becomes a living, immediate physical environment, almost tangible. Narrow passages seem even narrower, the heights even more impressive, and the vertical walls reveal all of their harshness. The result is an extraordinary perspective, because we are no longer observing the mountain from the outside, but crossing it together with the animal. Every step takes us deeper into its world, a world made of rock walls, breathtaking voids, calculated jumps, and routes that, seen up close, seem almost impossible to face. And yet, what appears extreme to us is simply the goat's natural environment. It is precisely this contrast between our perception of danger and its absolute confidence that makes these images so powerful and fascinating. Image 1. Here, we enter immediately into the heart of the difficulty. The goat is pressed against a vertical rock wall, with a dizzying drop opening beneath it. The framing, enclosed by the horns, makes the scene even more intense because it forces us to share not only the direction of its gaze, but also the sensation of being suspended beside the rock at a height that, for a human being, would already be enough to stop all movement. From this position, the landscape below appears incredibly far away, reduced to thin lines, patches of color, and almost abstract paths. The distance from the ground is so great that the world beneath seems remote, almost unreal, and yet, for the goat, This space is not an incomprehensible abyss. It is an environment it knows how to read with precision. Every rough surface in the wall, every protrusion, every small variation in the shape of the rock becomes useful information, a real possibility for movement. The strength of this image lies precisely in the contrast between what we see and what the animal perceives. We see risk, height, exposure, and fragility. It recognizes continuity, direction, and support. What seems to the human eye like a borderline passage is, for its body, a navigable route. It is as if the mountain, seen from this perspective, changes its language. It no longer speaks in terms of obstacles, but in terms of opportunities to move forward. And so, from the very first frame, we understand that this is not just a spectacular scene. It is the concrete demonstration of an extraordinary adaptation, built for moving where almost nothing else could. Image 2. Moving forward just a few feet, the path reveals itself to be even narrower and more demanding. In front of the goat appears a thin ledge of rock, almost like a step suspended over the void, marking an incredibly delicate boundary between balance and scoot. The wall on the right is extremely close, rough, full of cracks, shadows, and mineral details that slide beside the camera like a living surface. Below, meanwhile, the space opens completely, amplifying the feeling of total exposure. In this image, we can clearly sense how completely the animal's movement depends on absolute precision. Every step must be calculated. Every foothold must land on the exact point where the rock can still support the weight of the body. There is no room for error, no space for a late correction. Here, the mountain imposes severe rules, and the goat follows them with a fluidity that, seen up close, feels almost unreal. And yet, it is precisely in this apparent impossibility that its extraordinary mastery of the terrain emerges. The animal does not move with fear, but with clarity. Its confidence does not come from recklessness, but from a perfect knowledge of its own body and of the surface it is facing. The rock wall, seen through this camera, no longer appears as a hostile barrier, but as a vertical corridor made of tiny passages, minimal angles, and footholds that are almost invisible. It is here that we truly understand how, for the goat, the mountain is not a limit but a readable space, a territory where balance and movement merge into one continuous gesture. Image 3. Suddenly, the path seems to come to an end. A large boulder takes up almost the entire view ahead of us, as if the mountain were abruptly closing the passage and forcing the animal to stop. Looking at this scene, the feeling is that of standing before a dead end, an unexpected barrier that leaves very little room to understand what will happen next. The camera's perspective makes this moment even more intense, because it does not show us the problem from the outside, at a distance. It makes us experience it from within, at the exact point where tension is created. For a human observer, this would be the moment of uncertainty. We would ask ourselves where to place our feet, whether a passage really exists, whether it might be necessary to turn back. But the mountain goat does not think like we do, nor does it move according to our perception of risk. Its instinct, refined by a body built for high altitudes and by an extraordinary ability to read the terrain, allows it to transform what appears to be an impassable obstacle into a simple variation in the route. It is in this scene that the difference between human and animal becomes most evident. We see interruption. It sees continuity hidden inside the rock. We perceive a blockage. It identifies an opportunity to move forward. The large boulder, which in the frame seems to shut everything down, is actually only one part of a more complex system of supports and protrusions that the goat knows how to interpret with impressive speed. In this way, the obstacle loses its threatening appearance and becomes a simple stage within a much broader journey, made of instant readings, constant adjustments, and absolute trust in its own ability to move. Image 4. Then the landscape changes. The rock becomes lighter, the outline of the mountains in the background grows more jagged, and the environment takes on an almost mineral appearance, sculpted by wind, erosion, and the passing of time. The tones seem brighter, drier, and the mountain appears as an immense system of walls, ridges, and worn surfaces, where every shape tells a story of pressure, frost, and transformation. The goat continues moving along the mountainside, where the wall remains very close, but the path seems to open slightly, allowing just a faint sense of greater space. In this image, there is a double impression. On one side, there is the extreme harshness of the terrain, which continues to appear bare, vertical, exposed, and potentially dangerous. On the other, there is the extraordinary fluidity with which the animal crosses it. The goat does not seem to be fighting against the mountain. It does not give the impression of being in difficulty or of having to laboriously adapt to what surrounds it. On the contrary, it seems to fit into the landscape with total naturalness, almost as if the mountain itself were suggesting its rhythm and direction. This passage is important because it shows a less immediate but fundamental aspect of its behavior. The goat is not simply surviving in a hostile environment, it is moving through a territory that, for it, is coherent, readable, almost familiar. What appears to us as extreme, fragmented, and devoid of logic becomes order in its movement. The rock, the wall, and the void are not separate elements, but parts of a single traversable space. That is why this image, while retaining all the tension of high altitude, also communicates something different. Not only risk, but the animal's complete belonging to the landscape it is crossing. Image 5. Once the most exposed section is behind it, the run resumes in a more open environment. The mountain path stretches out once again in front of the camera, and the tension of the narrow passage gives way to another sensation: speed. The movement is now fast, decisive, full of energy. The horns vibrate at the edges of the frame, the ground rushes beneath us, and the background blurs slightly because of the pace, turning the footage into a far more dynamic and pulsing experience. Here, the mountain is no longer only a place of millimeter-perfect balance. It becomes a true field of action. The goat can finally express all of its power, combining agility, acceleration, and control with surprising naturalness. Every foothold is quick yet precise. Every movement of the head follows the rhythm of the run, and the camera mounted to the head allows us to feel directly the relationship between body and terrain. We are not simply watching movement, we almost feel it physically, as if we were being pulled into its momentum. This image also marks an emotional shift in the narrative. After the tension of the cliff wall and the suspended passages, a different kind of grandeur emerges, no longer the grandeur of height, but of mastery. The goat does not merely remain balanced. It dominates its trajectory, manages speed, and uses the terrain with a confidence that transforms the landscape into a surface to be traveled, almost like a natural road suspended between rocks and ridgelines. In this moment, we understand that its strength lies not only in its ability to avoid danger, but also in the way it turns the mountain into a space of free, continuous, and perfectly controlled movement. Image 6. In the final phase, the run becomes even more intense. Rocks, dust, and tufts of grass rise and rush through the frame, while the camera conveys the force of every impact against the ground. The sensation of movement becomes more physical, almost tactile. We can feel the speed of the advance, the pressure of the footholds, the vibration produced by the contact between the animal's body and the mountain's uneven surface. Everything appears faster, more direct, more overwhelming. The goat moves forward without fear, with fast and precise motion, showing just how perfectly adapted it is to this severe environment. There is no hesitation, no uncertainty, none of that margin of doubt that would define the step of another animal or a human being. There is only continuity. Every gesture connects to the next in a sequence that is fluid, efficient, and immensely powerful. The overall impression is that of a creature that is not reacting to the terrain, but anticipating it, as if it already knows where its foot will land before it even takes the step. And that is precisely the most extraordinary feeling these images leave behind. They show us that what seems extreme, exhausting, almost inconceivable to us is, for the goat, simply the most natural way of existing in the world. the mountain, which from the outside appears hostile, vertical, difficult, and inaccessible, changes meaning under its gaze. It becomes path, rhythm, continuity. And we, thanks to this unusually close and intimate perspective, are finally able to glimpse something that usually remains invisible. Not only how an animal moves at high altitude, but how it truly perceives its environment. Thank you for watching this video until the end. Your support is truly important and motivates us to keep creating increasingly immersive and engaging content. Your support helps the channel grow and allows these videos to reach more and more people passionate about nature, exploration, and immersive filming. We'll see you here in the next video. See you soon on AI Wildcam.